listen carefully. This isn't for the people who have easy lives. This isn't for the people who were protected, who had safety nets, who never had to learn how to stand on their own. You're not them, and that's why this is the only video you'll ever need to hear. There is a version of you that doesn't hesitate. It exists. You've glimpsed it in rare moments, when you acted before you felt ready, when you spoke before you could find the right words, when you moved without running the calculation first. In those moments, something shifted. You were dangerous. Most people never go back there. They build a life around the fear of that feeling. They call it being careful. They call it being thoughtful. They call it being mature. It is all cowardice dressed in better clothing. You know what I'm talking about. You felt it. The hesitation. Not the first time. Not the first 100 times. The thousandth time you almost spoke and didn't. The 1,000th time you almost left and didn't. The 1,000th time you almost fought and didn't. Not because you're not capable, because you are. That's the problem. Hesitation is not a neutral trait. It is a decision you make every single time you pause before acting. And every time you hesitate, you are making a choice about who you are. You are choosing the version of you that doesn't take up space. You are choosing the version of you that asks for permission before existing. You are choosing the version of you that other people can predict, categorize, and dismiss. And you call it thinking things through. Not when you're actually thinking, not when you're actually gathering information, when you're scared. The world will never tell you this, so I will say it for you. Hesitation is cowardice disguised as wisdom. You don't need more information. You've already had enough. You had enough information 3 decisions ago. The next piece of information you need will come after you act, not before. And you know this. You've known this for years. You just don't want to accept what that means. If you already have enough, and you always do, then every moment you spend preparing is a moment you're spending choosing to stay exactly where you are. You're not stuck. You're deciding. And the decision you keep making is remain safe, remain small, remain predictable. The world rewards decisiveness. It doesn't punish failure. It rewards the people who fail while moving, because movement is data, and data is power. The people who stand still while perfecting their plan, they don't fail. They never even begin. And that is worse, because failure has an end. There's a moment when failure stops, and you either move forward or you collapse. But hesitation is an ocean with no shore. You drown in it slowly, and every person in your life notices. Your friends notice. Your family notices. The people who are looking for a reason to dismiss you notice the most. Not when you try and fall, but when you talk about trying and never start. Not when you fail, when you don't even show up to the arena. That's what hesitation does. It turns you into a ghost in your own life. A spectator, someone who watches the version of themselves that acts from the outside. And the worst part, the version of you that doesn't hesitate is the one that scares you. Because that version doesn't have excuses. That version doesn't ask for permission. That version doesn't wait for anyone else to validate that you're ready. It moves. And when it moves, everything changes. You're not weak. You've just been trained. Trained by every person who told you to wait. Trained by every system that benefits from your hesitation. Trained by every failure that you treated as a verdict instead of data. The system wants you hesitant, because a hesitant person doesn't disrupt the system. A hesitant person doesn't leave, doesn't challenge, doesn't build something better. A hesitant person stays, works the job they hate, marries the person they're unsure about, lives in the city that doesn't fit them, wears the role that was assigned and calls it being realistic. That is not realism. That is surrender with better branding. Here's what you need to understand. Pain is information, not pain in the abstract. The specific, sharp, exact pain of standing at the edge of a decision and freezing. That pain is telling you something. It's telling you that you're about to cross a threshold. It's telling you that the version of you that exists on this side of the action is smaller than the version that exists on the other side. Every person who has ever changed anything, and I mean actually changed, not talked about changing, they all share one trait. They made the decision before they were ready. They moved before they had permission. They acted before the fear was gone. And then, when the fear didn't kill them, when it never could, because fear is not a physical force, they realized something fundamental. The fear wasn't a wall, it was a gate. And it only looked like a wall because they stood in front of it long enough to forget that there was anything behind it. You've been looking for readiness. You've been looking for the moment when you can do this without risking anything. There is no such moment. The only moment that exists is now. And the only preparation that matters is the preparation that happens while you're already moving, not when you're ready. When you're not, that's the only preparation that counts. Because the version of you that doesn't hesitate doesn't appear when conditions are perfect. It appears when you force it to by refusing to give yourself an alternative. You don't find this version of yourself through meditation or self-reflection. You find it through decisions that can't be undone. You create it by closing doors so completely that the only path forward is through the fear. The world rewards power, not potential, not intention, power. And power is not accumulated in the quiet moments of planning. It is accumulated in the moments where you chose to move despite the cost. Every time you hesitate, you are paying a tax. A tax on your potential, a tax on your confidence, a tax on the respect people have for you. And the longer you pay it, the more the compound interest destroys you. Because hesitation is not a single act. It's a compound interest on your own irrelevance. Each time you hesitate, the next hesitation comes faster. The next hesitation costs less. Eventually, you don't even realize you're doing it anymore. You just exist in the state of permanent almost. Almost acting, almost speaking, almost becoming. And one day you wake up and you're 40 or 50 or 60 years old. And you've spent every day of your life in the space between a decision and its execution, and you have nothing to show for it except a graveyard of plans you never carried out. You stop. Right now. Not next Monday. Not when you feel better. Not when you have the right framework, or the right book, or the right certification. Now. You stop treating hesitation as a virtue. You stop mistaking your fear for discernment. You stop using the excuse of not being ready to hide from the only thing that will ever make you ready, which is action. You start before you're ready. You start when you're terrified. You start when you know you might fail. Because failure is information, and information, however unpleasant, is always preferable to the alternative, knowing nothing and calling it wisdom. You move before the fear is gone, because the fear never goes away. Every person you admire, every person who has ever done something remarkable, they feel the fear too. The difference is that they moved anyway, not despite the fear, with the fear. Because the fear is not a stop sign, it's a door. And every door that matters is locked from the inside. You have to break it down. You have to become the person who doesn't wait for the key, the person who doesn't knock, the person who doesn't ask if they can come in. You become the storm, not the person who waits for the storm to pass. The storm. You stop giving other people the authority to define what you're capable of. Every time you wait for someone else to validate your move, their doubt, their concern, their "are you sure?" You hand them a piece of your power that they never earned. You are the one who has to live with the consequences. So let them talk. Let them say you're too young. Let them say you're too old. Let them say you're not qualified. Let them say you're making a mistake. They will, because people who have never moved cannot tolerate the sight of someone who does. Your hesitation is their comfort food. Every time you shrink back, they exhale. Every time you stay small, they can keep believing that this is all there is. Don't give them that relief. Make them watch you move. Make them watch you succeed when they've already written your failure into their story. No hesitation, no delay, no second guessing once the line is drawn. The moment you decide, you act. Not, I'll think about it. Not, let me sleep on it. Not, maybe tomorrow. Now, because tomorrow is a country that doesn't exist. It's a place where you go to die slowly, surrounded by people who also never started. The version of you that doesn't hesitate is not a destination. It's a daily practice. You don't find it, you forge it. Every single morning, in 1,000 small moments, you choose, will I move or will I pause? The moments compound. 10 decisions to hesitate and you are a ghost. 10 decisions to move and you are dangerous. It's that simple and that hard, because it's not simple to move when everything in you is screaming to stay safe. It's not easy to act when you know you might fail. It's not comfortable to stand in front of people and show them who you are without a script. But comfort is the enemy. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is not satisfaction. Comfort is the slow death of potential. And comfort has killed more dreams than failure ever will, because failure at least forces you to learn. Comfort lets you believe you're fine where you are. It whispers that you've done enough, that you should be grateful, that most people don't get what you have. Most people don't get what you have. But most people never wanted what you wanted. Most people are content with the life they were given. You are not most people, not anymore. Not since you realize that hesitation is a choice. The world doesn't need another person who almost made it. The world needs people who acted when it mattered, who spoke when it hurt, who moved when they were afraid, who became the threat instead of the prey. You have everything you need to start. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, right here, in this moment. The version of you that doesn't hesitate is waiting. It's not in the future. It's one decision away. Make that decision. No hesitation, no delay, no emotion, just execution. Take it personal.